There was going to be people or bodies left in the street because of that.
Made lurid and false claims about the royal family, which played on her fears and fueled paranoia.
Despite the fact that everyone had a feeling, nobody could prove it. As of this moment, Prince William has finally responded to the reports, and the contents of his statement are causing shockwaves to spread across the royal circle. To what extent does his acknowledgement actually reflect the truth? Keep an eye out for more inside scoops and make sure to subscribe to our channel. Prince William has always given off the impression of being calm, collected, and prepared for duty. From the outside, he appeared to be the type of person who would one day become king. He was graceful, responsible, and deeply committed to serving others. Nevertheless, royal watchers and insiders have been whispering for years about the emotional load that he may be concealing beneath that beautifully polished appearance. At this point, the rumors appear to be more than justified. From behind the palace doors, William engaged in fights that only a select few saw. His life, despite being full of privilege, held an unseen weight, a weight that he rarely allowed the public to see. People frequently believed that he was unaffected by his own personal struggles. As a matter of fact, he was brought up in palaces and had been prepared for leadership since he was a child. On the other hand, that perception is growing. As a result of the position I am in, I am aware of the duties that are expected of me. In addition, I believe that what he went through in private helped mold him into the person he is today, as we have observed over the course of time. It was not only a matter of tradition or expectation that this was a hardship, it had a strong emotional impact, was very personal, and had its origins in his younger years. Furthermore, he is going to provide this information for the very first time. During all of this time, what was William carrying then? And what was it that he ultimately disclosed that corroborated the things that so many people had suspected? To get a better understanding of the emotional journey that led him to this point of honesty, let's take a closer look at it. The life that William led while he was growing up in the royal family was anything but typical. While the majority of children his age were learning how to ride bicycles in their communities, he was already appearing on the covers of magazines, shaking hands with important people from over the world, and being observed by millions of people. Nevertheless, Princess Diana had one objective in mind behind all of the big entrances and royal ceremonies. She wished for William and Harry, his brother, to have the opportunity to experience the world as it actually was. My life and William's in particular, but he is prepared for such a thing. He is a child who is incredibly self-reliant. He took them to places that were quite uncommon for royals to see. Because she believed that having a better grasp of actual life was more important than following royal formality, she worked at hospitals and even McDonald's. Her efforts to bring up her sons in a grounded environment resulted in unforgettable moments, but it was not enough to shield them from the emotional turmoil that was occurring around them. William had an extremely strong bond with his mother. She confided in him matters that were sometimes beyond the capacity of a young boy to bear. During times of difficulty, she relied on him for solace and affection, and she referred to him as her little wise old man. He was more than just her son. It is something that the majority of youngsters should never have to experience, yet he became her emotional support. The emotional pressure that William experienced at a young age set the seeds for the challenges that he would bear for years to come. There was always something more weighty running underneath, even in times when one was experiencing delight. The world that William was living in transformed in a way that no one could have ever prepared him for when he was only 15 years old. That comment ought to have been enjoyable to me. This means that they always reside with you people. His family frequently spent their vacations at Balmoral Castle, and it was there that he learned the news. That would completely alter the course of his life. It seemed as though all of a sudden the entire world was expecting him to carry pain, dignity, and tradition all at the same time, with cameras rolling and eyes following his every step. It was at those times that he transformed from a young man into a symbol of strength. The photos of William marching alongside his brother behind the ceremonial car are ones that we all recall as being memorable. It went on to become one of the most famous public events that occurred during that era. However, there was something much more intimate hiding beneath the image. After some time had passed, William stated that he was not even sure if he had participated in that march. It wasn't a simple decision to make, it wasn't just a basic mourning. He was divided between his civic responsibilities and his personal feelings. The words, "If you walk, I'll walk with you," were spoken to him by his grandfather, who was a friendly and encouraging figure. According to his later description, that particular moment was one of the most challenging things he had ever done. The events that followed were not much simpler. Some friends and I went on a trip together, and I just came to the conclusion that it was the William and Harry who had withdrawn from media attention. In spite of this, the world moved on. The emotional burden continued to be a burden. William would later explain that he had spent years in a kind of fog, unable to completely understand everything that had happened to him. The narrative is about putting on a brave face while carrying a heart full of questions that have not been answered. It is a story of quiet struggle. William's return to public life led many people to believe that he had discovered a means to go on with his life. Without missing a single step, he not only smiled at events but also delivered speeches and carried out his regal duties. However, there was something that the cameras were unable to capture that was hidden behind the formal movements. He devoted his full attention to his academic pursuits, first enrolling at Eton College and then moving on to St. Andrews University. He worked diligently in his studies, assumed positions of leadership, and pushed himself in athletics. To be clear, these were not merely pastimes. Distractions were caused by them. What is the truth? He repressed his feelings and hid them. We need to be brave and collaborative in new ways. We also need to be innovative. In a later statement, William revealed that he had been silent about his feelings for a number of years. It was not because he chose not to, but rather because he did not believe he was capable of doing so. He believed that if he showed any sign of vulnerability, it would make him appear weak. For a considerable amount of time, he retained that belief, attempting to shield his younger brother while also concealing himself behind responsibilities and burying himself in accomplishments was his strategy. However, regardless of how far he traveled or how much he achieved, he was always being pursued by something more than anything else. A sense of loss that had never been made known. The battle he fought in silence molded his perspective of the world. As time went on, it would eventually become the impetus for him to finally make his voice heard. For a number of years, the general public speculated that Prince William had never really arrived at a conclusion. Anyone who paid attention could see the emotion that he repressed during royal events, as well as the silent look that he wore in his eyes during those occasions. But up to this point, nobody knew for certain. When William eventually revealed what so many people had assumed, it was a rare moment of vulnerability that occurred during a documentary. It is worth it if you are able to recover from a shock that has lasted for 10 years. Okay, well, I appreciate you sharing it. He claimed that the shock he experienced at that time is still present within him, even after several decades had passed. People have the misconception that it disappears, but he is telling the truth in a low voice. As a result of this disclosure, royal supporters were able to validate all they had long assumed, including the fact that William had been keeping everything inside and carrying the weight by himself. Even more, he told Kate about the way he experienced the presence of his mother on the day of his wedding. He stated that it was as if she was there directing him and watching him take the next step in his life while she was there. We weren't able to see the future monarch for the first time. Rather, we saw the son that was still healing. The confession made by William did more than just reinforce the rumors. People were given the opportunity to comprehend that grieving did not have a time frame, and that even a person who was born into royalty and had access to every possible support and resource might still experience feelings of disorientation. And by being so forthright, he made a compelling argument, detailing what it is that we need to do. Give up what we are unable to do, which is something that is really bad in all of us. Healing isn't happening despite the fact that we were trying. To forgetting something. It is about finally acknowledging that, yeah, I do feel it as well. William was not the only person who was attempting to deal with the situation in silence. Even though he was going through the same emotional tempest in his own unique way, his younger brother Harry was also going through it. Both of them handled it in quite different ways, which is an intriguing observation. Although Harry finally opened up to William, was the one who urged him to talk to someone. Harry eventually opened up to William. William was still watching out for his brother, just as he had been doing ever since they were children, despite the fact that he was going through his own internal issues. This drive to protect persisted throughout their lives, but the ways in which they recovered were not the same. In contrast to William, who went the more subdued and private road, Harry eventually decided to choose the more outspoken and public route. Even though they were telling the same story, they did it in different ways. Because of their common history, they remained close even as life shifted them into different roles. In spite of the fact that the world frequently compared them, it is evident that both of them were making the most of the resources they had available to them. There are many things that I am able to overlook, but this calls for conversations to take place. Then gradually their trip sheds light on a reality that many people are able to correspond to. Emotions are processed differently even within the same family, even when they are the same. There are moments when the most subdued individuals carry the most intense suffering. William refused to allow the stillness to characterize him. After some time he discovered a means to channel his own suffering into a public cause. The Heads Together campaign, which is an initiative aiming at removing the stigma that surrounds mental health, was officially launched with his assistance, along with that of Harry and Kate. People were urged to chat, to be honest, and most importantly to listen, all of which were promoted by the ad. It was difficult for William to open up, and he did not want other people to experience the same sense of isolation that he had in the past. Since then he has participated in a number of projects such as Shout, which is a continuous mental health helpline. In addition to this, he introduced mental health in the workplace, which assisted both employees and employers in promoting emotional well-being in an occupational setting. Tolerance, duty, and service are key. However, what exactly is it? The fact that he has made this endeavor so personal is what sets him distinct. Not only as a prominent figure but also as someone who is aware of what it is like to struggle in silence, he has shared his thoughts with everyday people, including athletes, students, and plain people. It is okay to talk regardless of who you are, is the message that he conveys. It is acceptable to feel, and it is not at all inappropriate to ask for assistance. The road that William is on is not the same as the usual royal path. He is reshaping it into something other, a version in which forthrightness and compassion are the primary focuses. William is more conscious than he has ever been of the significance of nurturing emotional connections in his role as a spouse and father. He is not shy about expressing his desire for his mother to have had the opportunity to meet Kate and their children. He ponders what she would have been like as a grandmother and how much she would have enjoyed being a part of their lives, were she to have been there. Not even this want has been able to stop him. It has strengthened his resolve to bring up his children in a different manner. The things that he wants George, Charlotte, and Louis to learn as they grow up are that it is okay to feel, to talk, and to rely on other people. So what are your thoughts on the emotional trip that Prince William has been on? Do you believe that it is altering the way that we perceive the royal family? Post your thoughts in the comments section below. What's more, if you found this tale to be moving, don't forget to give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to receive more stories.